let's take a look at our Sigrid platform, specifically the architecture module, to see how a solutions architect would go about doing an impact analysis of our system. So to provide you with some context, what you're seeing on your screen here, on the left-hand side, those hexagonals are the 6 quality characteristics of a systems architecture. And on the right-hand side are things that you can measure within the code base. And on the top bar, what we can do within Sigrid is that also compare this system with other systems that we've analyzed and provided with a rating. And so what we're seeing here is that our system is of average architecture quality based on compared to the benchmark. But there are a couple of areas where it's rating below market average. That's around knowledge and evolution. So let's take a look to see how we can evolve our system, specifically the front-end components, for a better user experience. So for that, I'll go to our Explore Architecture tab. And here, what we're seeing here is that each of these boxes are a top-level component, and the lines across these boxes are the relationship between them. So if I hover over the user icon, I see that the system has 2 front-end components here called UI Viewer and UI Portal. So now I'd like to see, as a solutions architect, how easy it would be to refactor these components. And for that, one of the first things I would be looking at is the dependencies or the isolation of these components so I can make changes to them. So for that, I'll go to our Component Coupling tab, and so what I'm seeing here is that our UI Viewer is actually quite highly coupled with other components within the system at the top layer. Let me take a deeper look at it. Oh, wow. Now it looks like a bit of a mess. So we could see that not only is the top level coupled with the rest of the system, but also the modules or the subcomponents within the UI Viewer also has dependencies across the system, which actually leads me to believe that there might be some business logic lying within the front-end layer, which is an architectural anti-pattern. And this does not look like it would be easy to refactor this front-end layer without impacting the rest of the system. So let's look at the Component Cohesion tab. And here, yes, so we do see that typically what we'd want to see is that the modules or subcomponents within a top-level layer component follow a single responsibility principle. That means that the things that they have or designed or requirements that they're implementing are specific to that layer or that business requirement. But given the dependency within the sub-modules here and across the other components within the system, it makes me believe that there would be a lot of business logic within the front-end layer, which is another anti-pattern. So, and of course, in a real-world system, we'd be looking at a lot deeper and talking to the development teams to validate our findings. But just for the sake of this demo, I think I can form a conclusion that doing a refactoring of the front-end layers would be too costly because of the high coupling and the lack of cohesion within the front-end layer. So what I would recommend is doing a rebuild of the system in the form of consolidating the front ends and, of course, pulling out any common UI artifacts into libraries that could be reused in the future, and also make sure that the business logic is extracted from the front-end layer during the rebuild process, and they're built into their own services that can be reused for the future. So another area I'd like to focus on is the knowledge distribution. This is also scored poorly within our benchmark average, and let's see what we can find here. So with knowledge distribution, what we do is we take the git commit history or version history, and we aggregate the data to see how evenly distributed knowledge is across development teams. And here, what we're seeing here is that the blue line shows that it looks like there's less than 2 or 3 people that are actually working on the system, and the yellow line is what the theoretical recommendation would be. So what I would recommend here, or what I would conclude here, is that it looks like there's knowledge monopolies or the team is highly understaffed. So this causes the risk for this is that by causing knowledge monopolies, you're creating single points of failure, and it becomes very difficult to scale and evolve the system as well, architecturally. So let's go back to our summary. So now, of course, as I mentioned earlier, in a real world scenario, we would be diving a lot deeper into each of these architectural characteristics, working with the development teams to validate them, and coming to conclusions. But just for the sake of this demo, I hope it was a good view of how our solutions architect can go about doing this and providing recommendations to the enterprise architect.